What is happening, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here, and I have a book that I want to talk to you about. Not a graphic novel, not a comic book, but a book. This book is massive. Let me see if I can get this whole thing in the frame here. It is called Watching the Watchmen, and this is mainly by Dave Gibbons, but it also has a credit by Chip Kidd and Mike Essel. I have no idea to what extent Chip Kidd and Mike Essel were even involved with this. I know Chip Kidd has done a lot of these art books. I think he worked on one of the Alex Ross art books, either Rough Justice or the Mythology book. I'm not sure which one. And I know he also did one for Batman the Animated Series in the late 90s. So he probably was involved with like the composition of the pictures in the book. But the words that are in this book are all almost entirely by Dave Gibbons. There is one brief, like 2 or 3 page clip in the middle that's by the colorist of the Watchmen graphic novel. And I don't remember that guy's name. I think it's John Higgins. But other than that, this is all the Dave Gibbons book. And I got this at a local Books A Million for less than $5. And that may surprise you because look at the size of this thing. It's like 250 pages and it's hardcover, but I got it for less than $5. And I figured, you know what, even if this is entirely pictures, I can't pass this up for $5. And I did look in the book before I bought it, and I saw there was some words. But I would say, if I had to quickly go off the top of my head, this is about 80% pictures and about 20% words. Mostly it's just like, let me find here's a good example. I just turned right to this. It's mostly like rough drawings of pages that eventually appear in The Watchmen, and then you get like more finished versions of those pages. And it's a lot of that in this book, but then you also get some sort of commentary about the process of making the Watchmen graphic novel. Like, for example, here's a page that's Dave Gibbons kind of talking about the process. And it's, like I said, it's about 20% commentary from Dave Gibbons and about 80% cool pictures and stuff. And if you've read the Watchmen graphic novel, I have, it's been a few years, but I have read it, then I had a tendency to skip over the pages where it's just like, hey, here's a rough version of that one page from the book. But then whenever it showed stuff like a scan of the first page of the script by Alan Moore, I wanted to read that. But then if it was just something like, hey, here's a rough of this page from the comic, I would usually skip over that. And I would say if you are a fan of the Watchmen graphic novel, you need to own this, probably. Although I've been a fan of the Watchmen graphic novel for about 10 years now, or a little more, and I only have owned this for about a day. So you probably don't need to own it, but it does have some interesting insights to the process of making the Watchmen graphic novel. Now, it is a little bit skewed towards the Dave Gibbons side of things. He does mention near the very end of this book that there is really no scandal or anything like that in this book because he mostly wanted this to be a celebration of making the Watchmen. He didn't want this to be a behind-the-scenes look at all the drama of making the book. And I don't know if there was any drama in making the book, but I do know that Alan Moore is basically just an eccentric hermit who hates everybody, and he doesn't really have any good terms with Dave Gibbons right now. Basically, he's angry at Dave Gibbons because Dave Gibbons didn't call him to say, hey, thank you for sending your royalties for the Watchmen my way, because Alan Moore is so stubborn about the Watchmen, he's refusing all the royalties about the book, anything that he could have potentially made from when the movie came out, and I think even just future printings of the book, he's refused it all and saying, hey, it can all go to Dave Gibbons. And he and Dave Gibbons apparently had this understanding, listen, Dave, I don't want to talk about the Watchmen anymore. And so apparently Dave Gibbons took that to mean, okay, so I'm getting these royalties from Alan Moore for the Watchmen, and I don't need to call him and say thank you for that because he doesn't want to talk about the Watchmen anymore. And Alan Moore got upset because Dave Gibbons didn't call to say thank you. I heard all of this from Alan Moore, so for all I know, there is more to that story than what Alan Moore said. But if you read this book, it's very misleading. It makes you think that these guys are still bosom buddies who hang out once a week, and that's not really the case. Although for all I know, maybe Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons have made up, but I don't think so. Alan Moore isn't really the kind of guy to make up with people. Once he's had a feud with someone, he kind of burns that bridge. But if you are interested in kind of the scandal of this thing, like how VH1 used to do behind the look at a certain band and how they fell apart because of drugs and feuds and stuff like that, this is not that book. This is largely just how awesome it was making the graphic novel. And it is pretty cool reading some of these insights, but I do think that if you're wanting a lot of insights, if you're wanting this much insights, you're not going to get it. Because like I said, most of this book is visual. And it's kind of cool seeing some of this visual stuff, but at the same time, you could also go online and look up a lot of this stuff for free. So if you don't want to pay the retail price for this book, which I don't even know what it is, I'm kind of scared to look at it, USA, the retail price is $40. If you don't want to pay $40 for this book, I don't blame you. I probably wouldn't have even paid $15 for this book, but for $5, I couldn't pass this up. So if you saw it for that price, or maybe you know what price you would be comfortable paying for this kind of book. If you know that you would pay, say, $20 for a book that's 80% pictures and 20% words, then go do that. And if you haven't read The Watchmen, if you have no desire to read The Watchmen, you might not even like this book. It's probably not something you would enjoy. But really, if you like The Watchmen and you feel like burning some money to read one of these art books, then this is a book that I would recommend. It had some stuff that I didn't know about, and it had some stuff that I did know about, but I really enjoyed myself. And really, my only criticism is that there's not more word stuff here. It's mostly just a visual book. But then again, what can you expect from a book that's by the artist of The Watchmen? So those are my thoughts on Watching The Watchmen by Dave Gibbons, Chip Kidd, and Mike Essel. It is Mike, right? Yeah, Mike Essel. So let me know what you guys thought of this review. This is something I've never really reviewed an art book before, but it did make me much more interested in reading some more books along these lines. Like, I really want to go back and read the mythology book about Alex Ross, which I kind of glimpsed through that many years ago. I'd really love to go back and see if I can get my hands on that, or The Rough Justice, also about Alex Ross. I'd really love to get more of these books about comic books and comic book things. I'd really love to have more of these to read, but I probably wouldn't want to pay a whole lot of money for them. Probably about like what I paid here, or a little more. But those are my thoughts on Watching The Watchmen. Let me know what you guys thought of this video, and if you have by any chance read this book, let me know what you thought of the book. And I will be back with you guys later in the week with a different kind of video, so be sure to come back and check that out, and I will see you guys then. Have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.